It had started off so well. A grand ball was graciously being held by Chloe for her birthday. Adrian was so proud of her for finally getting along with everyone. He was surrounded by friends, and the atmosphere was filled with merriment. But when he saw her, his heart had nearly stopped. There Marinette stood in all her fierce glory. She was so beautiful, dressed in an elegant red gown. The spots that adorned the skirt were so befitting of her. His legs began moving on their own, drawn to her. There were so many things he wanted to say, so many things he wanted to ask. But when he approached her, she shunned him, turned her back to him. His insides churned when her hands gently grasped Luka's arm. Her name was on the tip of his tongue when she turned and cast him a glance, eyes filled with a resigned melancholy. I'm tired of being just a friend. Adrian awoke with a start, heart pounding and goosebumps covering his skin. He stared at his blank ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. When his breathing and heart rate had finally fallen to a normal pace, he rolled over onto his side and groaned. He was an idiot, a ginormous, idiotic idiot. Mustering the courage to go to school that morning and seeing them together was a chore. He exited the car and let out a deflated sigh. A baritone voice sounded out, followed by a light-hearted giggle. Adrian begrudgingly turned his head to his left to see Marinette and Luka chatting amicably as he walked her to school. She was smiling so happily. She never smiled like that towards him before, he thought in dismay. Too busy stewing in self-pity, he almost missed her waving at him. As if she commanded his attention, he stood ramrod straight and said good morning to her. She returned his greeting, her cheeks flushed a rosy pink. He foolishly hoped it was because of him and not because of Luka. Who would have ever guessed that Marinette Dupen-Cheng was Ladybug? Ladybug, aka his lady, aka the love of his life, aka the girl that he had thoroughly friend-zoned more times than he could remember. Because he sure as hell didn't. He inwardly groaned and went back to sulking after Marinette walked past him and entered the school. Plag had a field day after Adrian had accidentally figured out her identity just a day earlier. After a long fit of laughter, he called him a fool for pining over someone who had clearly put up boundaries and insisted on keeping things professional, when he could have been hitting it off with the cute girl who sat behind him. You know, especially since they were the same person. In his defense, Adrian claimed that he was loyal. It would not be right to set his eyes on anyone else when he was so irrevocably in love with Ladybug. Plag simply raised a brow and scoffed, reminding him that he had gone out with Kagami several times. Irritated by Plag so easily tearing down his excuse, Adrian swatted him away. A brief question of whether or not he loved Marinette crossed his mind, but that was another can of worms and he didn't have the time to ponder over that. All he knew was that he was going to lose any shot of getting with her if he didn't deal with this one little problem. Luka Kufane. He hated that Luka was so cool and so easy to get along with. He couldn't outright hate the guy. On the contrary, Adrian actually liked him. Heck, there wasn't even a reason to hate him. It's not like Adrian had any claim over Marinette. Who she chose to spend her time with was none of his concern. But Adrian was young, he was impetuous, he was jealous. Plag had pointed out to him that he was completely fine before he knew Marinette was Ladybug. The Kwame even reminded him that he previously said Luka and Marinette made a cute couple. As if Plag wasn't already annoying enough with his love for Camembert. Yes, he knew the situation was absurd. Didn't mean he'd have to be okay with it. As he entered the classroom, he heard Rose speaking animatedly about how great it was that Marinette got along so well with Luka. Julika, as usual, mumbled her words, but he could tell that she was pleased. Julika would probably be happy if Marinette became her sister. They would probably have such a cool wedding. Jagged Stone would probably come and perform. Luka would be living Adrian's dream life. Damn him. But they'd all be sorely mistaken if they thought he'd back down without a fight. Operation Woo Marinette Dupen-Cheng was a go.